this. Turn around. No Cenobites yet. Like this. Oh, I have such sights to show you. But I don't have the box yet, okay? I'm working on it.
Hello and welcome to the Cavern of Terror.
Hellbound, Hellraiser 2 stars Ashley Lawrence, Claire Higgins, Doug Bradley, Kenneth Cranham, Imogen Borman, and is directed by Tony Randall. Okay, I probably should not be trusted with props like this Rubik's Cube. And yes, I am working on a lament configuration. I'm going to get one for the rest of these reviews. Gotta have it in the background, especially if you're reviewing the Hellraiser series. You almost have to have one, and being on the Blu-ray does not count, so I am getting one. I'm actually ordering it tomorrow, so that's happening. It's going to be on the shelf here very soon. The thing I wanted to tell you guys about before we go any further in this review, let's put this thing down before I play with it anymore, is that a certain subscriber told me in my first Hellraiser review that I unfortunately was using the wrong name to describe the lament configuration in the first movie.
You son of a bitch.
Now, granted, it can be confusing, like this whole series can be confusing because they change lore and mythology throughout all these movies, that I was using the wrong name. Called it Will the Merchant Puzzle Box, even though, you know, that was the name of the guy that actually made the thing. So to tide everybody over, let's keep this thing copacetic here. We are going to call the puzzle box the lament configuration for the remainder of the series. That cool? Alright, let's go. Hellbound is very much a direct sequel to the original Hellraiser movie. I mean, this thing opens up in a hospital with Ashley Lawrence's character of Kirsty Cotton. She's locked up in basically the mental ward because no one believes her wild story of survival. More importantly, no one believes her about the Cenobites. Very real demons. If you guys saw my review of Hellraiser 87, well, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing here? Go watch that and then come back over here. You'll know that I was actually a really big fan of Ashley Lawrence's performance as Kirsty Cotton. I get it. I know why she is a fan favorite. You know, a lot of people consider her the final girl of this series. She was fantastic in the first movie. She's 10 times better in the sequel. I was doubly invested with the character in this one. She had something to really fight for in this one. She was under the impression that her father was in hell and that she wanted to go rescue him. That is the most metal thing I've ever heard in my life. Her crazy eyes, even though she's not crazy, her crazy eyes were on point. She had a mission to tell these people that the Cenobites were real and her father was in hell and she had to get there to save him. I'll be honest with you guys, I've never really found too many negatives with Hellraiser 2. I've seen it several times and never really had a problem with it. But when I sat down to do the review, to watch the movie, I did find a few things that kind of stuck out to me. One is there's way too much exposition here. Is too much exposition really a flaw? I mean, to a lot of people, maybe not, but to me, yes. Guys, we get a complete recap of the first movie here. Hellbound came out 1 year after the original Hellraiser, 87 to 88. I believe they started production like shortly after the first film ended. Now I understand back in the day they might have wanted to put that in there because it was a lot harder to get home media. Back in the 80s, early 90s, VHS tapes were not very easy to come by. They were pretty expensive before the blockbuster boom. So I completely understand why they did this. Just nowadays, it's so accessible that I don't really see a need for that complete recap of the first movie at the very beginning of this one. Now, that would be okay if that was the only exposition scene. No, there's another one, and this one comes from Kirsty Cotton herself. She's in the hospital. She explains to Dr. Channard exactly what we saw in the opening, exactly what we saw in Hellraiser, again from her own words. I don't understand why we needed this, especially if you know what Dr. Channard becomes later in this movie. Later, what we see at his house. He knows all this stuff already, so why do we need this again? Just doesn't make any sense to me. Did we really need another info dump? Nope. Getting back to a positive here, Christopher Young comes back to do the score for Hellbound. I'm a huge fan of that Hellraiser theme. Let's play a clip of that. It's awesome. Alright, that's enough. Let's talk about this new score for Hellraiser 2. Is it orchestral? Not really. It's a little bit of a dark synth here. It strayed away from that orchestral theme in the first one, as I said, and went in a darker direction, and actually reminded me a lot more of a sci-fi score, very much in the vein of what would be Prometheus several years later. It just sounded foreboding and just like really ethereal. Let's talk about the villains, because everybody knows the Hellraiser series is all about its villains. Why am I holding this again? Frank, Julia the Doctor, Pinhead, Lady, Cenobite, Butterball, Chatterer. Yeah. Yes, just like I said with my review of the original Hellraiser, this series is very much in love with its villainous characters. We get several villains in every installment, so you can say that there are up to like 7 villains in Hellraiser 2. It gets crazy. That being said, guys, what did I think of the newest villain here for Hellbound, Dr. Channard? I'll tell you, I really like this character. I thought that he was multi-layered when it was explained. We'll get to that. And I thought that Kenneth Cranham did a fantastic job. I thought he was wonderful in this role. He really like embodied this evil doctor character. Really dug this performance. So let me tell you what I meant by motivations. Motivations, that's the biggest problem that I have here, and it's not even with the character. I thought the character was written well. It wasn't on the performance of the actor. As I said, I thought Kenneth Cranham did a great job. It is on the writing. Hellraiser 2 is much more style over substance. I feel like a lot of that writing that should have been pushed to the forefront here was buried down by fancy special effects and big sets. We really didn't get that theme that Dr. Channard had throughout this movie pushed up to know more about him because we were more focused on the Flash. You could call the writing underdeveloped, and yes, you could call it sloppy. I would call it disjointed. Like I said, this movie came out 1 year after the original. Maybe they, rushed the writing process a little bit more, but was the character badass? Yes. Cranham is not the only new addition to the sequel here. We get another new character in Imogen Borman's Tiffany. She is a mute, puzzle-obsessed girl. It's a pretty interesting character. I really do love the idea of this new character. A character that's obsessed with puzzles. Like, I'm obsessed with this Rubik's Cube. It makes sense for the puzzle box. But if you can see it looming in the distance, there is yet another negative. If you're gonna have this character, and I get it, it makes total sense for this story. I like it. I think it's really cool. But if you're gonna have this character, please, for the love of Leviathan, please make the lament configuration harder to solve. This thing is easier. Damn it. On a serious note, guys, the puzzles that Tiffany solves, the wood block puzzles that she solves, should not be harder than the lament configuration. This thing summons demons from another world. Can we please make this thing harder? Not Michael Keaton had way more to do in this movie than Kirsty's boyfriend in the first one. Kirsty had a boyfriend in the first Hellraiser? Huh. I guess that shows you how memorable he was. That being said here, guys, we do have another new character here, and that is Dr. Kyle McRae, played by Will Hope. And now he has more to do than poor Steve did in the first one, but he is still pretty underdeveloped, and he exits the movie pretty early. So I feel like if we would have gotten rid of one of those exposition scenes, we would have had more time with this character, would have been more developed, would have known more about him, and maybe we would have developed that villain a little bit more as well. Do you guys remember what I said about Julia Cotton in the first movie, Claire Higgins? The fact that I feel like she should be a more highly regarded villain. Well, guess what? That doesn't change here. She is once again incredible. I understand why Clive Barker wanted her to be this villain moving forward in the franchise, and I just will not ever understand why they didn't do that. I know that Claire Higgins did not want to continue a career of horror. That's completely on her, but she is fantastic in these two movies. But it is not all Claire Higgins here. Yep, they franked it here in the sequel. They did two different actresses to play the Julia Cotton character. They had the Julia version played by Claire Higgins, of course, and then they had the skinned monstrous version, just like they did with Frank, played by Deborah Joel. They were both fantastic. Also, Julia has one hell of a backhand. She knocked out Christy with one hit. Hellbound goes your typical sequel route here. They go bigger in every single way. A lot of sequels do this. They feel like they need to stand on their own. They have to have their own legs. So they try to double down on everything. Don't tell anybody, but Hellraiser 2 got some money in this bitch. We got $12 million here to play with. So we got multiple sets, some badass special effects on the new villain, the Channard Cenobite. That's right, we got a new Cenobite here. We got multiple sets, as I said. We have matte paintings, multiple puzzle boxes. They went huge here. Speaking of the Cenobites, yes guys, they are all back here. You get Butterball, you get the Lady Cenobite, you get Chatterer, who actually has eyes in this one, and Loki, I like the eye look. Then you have, of course, the Hell Priest, Doug Bradley, Pinhead. In this is possibly the coolest part of the movie when these guys show up. It is so cool, and I'm telling you, little known fact about me on the channel, huge wrestling fan. I'm telling you guys that Pinhead has a Triple H Undertaker WrestleMania entrance in this movie. It is so cool.
It's time to play the game. Time to play the game!
The Hell Priest is here, and he means business. Continuing with the weird pain, pleasure, demon things, I like the fact that they were portrayed quite neutral here until the very end, like they were in the first one. They kind of let Kirsty and Tiffany do their thing in Leviathan. But I also wanted to mention that they let Doug Bradley play around a little bit more with the character here on this one. We're just getting a little bit more of a taste of what this guy is going to bring to this franchise, and I loved it. I loved the little head move that he gave her when they were in hell there, and you know, just letting her do her thing in his domain. Pretty cool, and it's just that gravitas that we know we're going to get later. Dude is gonna light it up. It's a good thing that I brought a drink because I'm talking a lot. I have one more thing that I want to tell you guys about before we get to the rating here, and it is a small spoiler for the movie. And if you haven't seen it, I mean, it came out in 1988. I'm getting a little bit more lenient on spoilers here, but I feel like this has to be talked about. We do get a Pinhead origin, Hell Priest origin here with Doug Bradley's character, and it's kind of like shoehorned into the recap at the beginning and the opening scene. It just really doesn't make any sense where it is, and I feel like it would have made so much more sense in the ending of the movie in the third act, where Kirsty is confronting the Cenobites about their humanity. I feel like that scene that they shoehorned in at the beginning would have made way more sense at the end. That's not even a writing thing. That's an editing thing. Should have been at the end of the movie. But we are there, guys. We are at the rating. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to give Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, a very strong... Why do we keep holding this thing? While I do enjoy the sequel to Hellraiser quite a bit here with Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, I feel like it does have some issues. Is bigger necessarily better? I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask. I really did enjoy Hellbound. I thought that Ashley Lawrence was great returning for the sequel. I liked the new characters. I liked a lot of the concepts and ideas in this one. I liked the new Cenobite, Dr. Channard. I thought he was great. The returning Julia. Frank was in this movie. Didn't even mention him. There's a lot going on here. That being said, it's a little bit bloated. I think that the writing suffers here because of that, and it's a little bit more style over substance. Don't get me wrong, guys, Hellbound is a great sequel, and I believe it's probably a lot of your favorites in the franchise. I really enjoyed the movie, but it does have a lot of hurdles that I didn't think it could jump. Alright guys, and it's been my review of Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. What did you guys think of this first of many sequels in the Hellraiser series? Please let me know down in the comments down below what you guys think. I've actually been seeing a lot of new comments down there in the comments section. I'm really enjoying getting down there and actually talking about the subject of this video with you guys, so keep those coming. If you like this video, guys, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more of my content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications to all. That way you get notified about all my future content. What is that content? Of course, we gotta hit Hellraiser 3. That's right, the third Hellraiser movie, and actually the last one to involve Clive Barker in this series. So this is a very important sequel in the franchise, and we have to cover that one next. But we do have an in-between movie that we have to talk about. Alright, I have been trying to do a special Halloween review for a long time. I have covered basically every Halloween movie there is in the actual Halloween series, aside from the 2 sequels to Halloween 2018. Didn't cover them, gonna have to do that soon, but I thought that I would do something special. Movie's already in my hand, you can hear it, for Halloween this year. So my in-between review, which is usually supposed to be a movie that is directed by one of the directors of the previous movie, had a tough time with Tony Randall. I was going to do another Ashley Lawrence movie. Still might do that. I believe I am going to do that. But in between Hellraiser 2 and Hellraiser 3, I'm going to finally review Trick or Treat. Yes, I do not have the Scream Factory version. Got to remedy that, but we are finally going to review Trick or Treat. I'm going to try to get it out the week of Halloween, or possibly on Halloween if I can. But most importantly, guys, I've been Zach. This has been the Cavern of Terror. Stay metal, my friends.